Welcome to episode number 155 of the Marine Layer podcast. It feels like deja vu that we have to do this again, but we'll discuss another brutal series loss to the Detroit Tigers. Yes, again. We'll also talk about how the Mariners and Julio Rodriguez have dealt with his ankle injury. We'll go down on the farm and pick out a standout Mariners minor leaguer. We have a Russell Wilson Umpire of the Week, and we'll close out the show with Speak Your Mind.
Here's your guys' reminder. Stay on top of all of our stuff, guys. If you want to do that, make sure to download these podcast episodes if you're listening. Leave a 5-star review. Leave a written review. It all really does help us out. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe. Leave this video a like. Drop us a comment. And then follow us on social media all across Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. One run from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game is 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network. Recording on Thursday evening, August 15th. And yes, we are doing this again, Lyle, a week after we literally, the same words are going to come out of our mouth again. 1 week later, and another excruciating series loss to the Detroit Tigers. Why are we sitting back here today doing the same thing?
Because they can't hit. They scored 4 runs in 3 games. Bryce Miller and Brian Wu went 14 combined shutout innings, and the offense gave them 3 runs of support, including 1 measly hit in the finale. No, this is not going to be the same as a week ago. It's not. You say we're going to sit here and say the same words. I'm going to say something right now that I didn't say a week ago. I'll put a question mark at it at the end, but I'm going to say it. Season over, question mark.
Unfortunately not.
All right. I mean, my answer's also no, but it's not looking good either.
It would give people a lot more comfort if we sat here and said yes, because then people could just focus on football season. Mm-hmm. But no, I unfortunately still don't think this team is totally cooked. That's pretty extreme. But frustrating, yeah. Why are they playing the same week over and over and over again the last 3 weeks? It gives inspiration that they could actually play well and match what the Astros are doing. A team, by the way, who realizes it's August and have turned it on without much issue. A less talented team is showing you how it's done in August. The last 3 weeks have been the exact same. Exact same. You play great against the White Sox, just a joke of a team, but you sweep them. You dominate them. Then you go to Boston, and you play a bad series, lose. Come back home against the Phillies, one of your best series wins of the season. Boom, check. Midweek series against the Detroit Tigers. Man, you look like crap. And your catcher calls you out for not having enough energy. And that, for some reason, against these lower-level teams in the middle of the week, you just can't focus at home. Oh, there's less people in the stands. Oh, we just can't get up for it. Well, then the Mets come to town for the weekend. You get a primetime Sunday night baseball game. The stands are full. And you look great, and you give up 1 run all weekend. And then this shit.
This team has no consistency. I don't even know if they have an identity, because every time it looks like they're turning their season around, every time, like they blew that ridiculous 10-game lead that they had in June in record time. They've now lost 12 and a half games on the Astros since mid-June. But every time it seems like they're going to turn this thing around and they found some momentum again, they do the dumbest possible thing. And this weekend, this week, it is right there with that Angels series where they scored 3 runs in 3 games. It's maybe slightly below that, but it is right there.
And it feels so frustrating to analyze because it makes you and I sound worse when we sit here after the Mets series and are like, wow, so this is what they look like at full speed. This looks great. Just make the playoffs. And then we sit here a few days later and realize, well, this is why they actually might not make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Because they refuse to copy that week in and week out, series in and series out. For some reason. Why is the team that is this talented struggling to do that? Why? There's no way this lineup with some of those names in it should be 9 for 92 in a series against a team that threw 2 bullpen games. 2! Kenta Maeda has an ERA over 6.
Well, that's the worst part about all this. Like, I said the same thing the last time they played the Tigers as this time. Look, I wasn't happy when they got blown out on Tuesday. But Tarek Skubal's Tarek Skubal. I said if you lose the Tarek Skubal game but turn around to win the next 2, I'll totally forget about it. Not only did they not win the next 2, they scored 3 runs, had 1 hit in the finale, and wasted 2 miraculous starts. If I were Bryce Miller and Brian Wu, God, I don't know. I mean, I would be so unbelievably infuriated. That offense, oh man, this is how mad we are. Now we're doing voice cracks. That offense owes them steak dinners, like as some form of apology, because this has gone on too long. How many times can this rotation take it? Like, I don't know what type of coping mechanisms this rotation has, but they have to have something, because no person can just keep their sanity this long into a season when a rotation like this just deals time after time after time after time after time after time after time, and only to be rewarded, in air quotes, by your offense putting up 2 runs a night. Sometimes that's even generous. How do they deal with it? We said our little theory here is this rotation has its own group chat as a way for everybody to vent behind closed doors so they don't rip this offense publicly. Oh, it must be going off these days, that group chat. Because how do these guys deal with it? There is no way they really think in their head, well, I have to do better. That might be what they say publicly to the media. There is no way that's what they're thinking. One of these guys goes 7-1 and the team loses. You got to have your hands in the air and be like, what am I supposed to do at this point?
Paul Skeens pitches today. He's going to throw a 72-pitch perfect game.
Yeah. If you're getting 1 hit off a bullpen game for the Detroit Tigers and a 6 ERA Kenta Maeda, what happens against the best pitcher in baseball? And yes, there is an actual argument that Paul Skeens is now the best pitcher in baseball as a rookie at 21, 22 years old.
You know what they're probably going to do, Lyle? They're going to score 4 runs off him in 6 innings. Somehow, because they make no sense. Because the weekend's rolled around, that's why. And they got to save the lack of energy for playing the Dodgers next week.
But then that's a weekday series, so then they'll get swept.
Right. But not in the weekend, because they got to play well against Pirates. They got to stay on brand, Lyle. We asked for consistency at some point. That would be consistency.
Seriously, I'm serious. How does this rotation deal with this? How do they cope with it? Maybe
firing off a lot of texts in that group chat.
It's either that or maybe athletes really are wired that different. But I have such a hard time believing you can go this long into a season and have the sanity to watch what you watch with your offense every night when they pitch like this. We've said it a million times. It's almost getting annoying to say. Just get into the playoffs, right? Because they'd be so fearsome if they just got in. It would be such an unbelievable disgrace to waste this 2024 rotation. If they do that, that's going to be a storyline all offseason. They wasted what's been an absolutely historic rotation. I'm going to say the best rotation and best season out of a rotation we've seen in our lifetimes from the Mariners. Maybe it's on a short...
Or you could say, period, this is the best rotation season they will ever put together in franchise history.
Yeah. There's no guarantee everybody repeats it next year and everybody's free of injuries.
Yep. Yeah.
And it sucks too, because you know what? It really is that much better than last year. And they were really good last year. But you know what we started to see around this time last year? We saw Bryce Miller and Brian Wu have some rookie struggles. They were hitting their highest inning totals ever. Miller kind of only had 2 pitches by that point. We talked about it's probably clear he's going to add some stuff in the offseason. Wu was at a career high innings total. They were struggling against lefties. Now, there's still some weeks left in the season, but look at where these guys are at now. Look at how different they are now. Brian Wu walked his share of guys last year. He doesn't walk anybody anymore. He walks less guys than George Kirby. Bryce Miller on Thursday here had 14 whiffs. He had 7 on that splitter, 7 on the fastball, and he went 7 shutout. Like, he was unreal. And both of these guys, as we've mentioned now the last couple weeks, have taken a huge step forward in terms of what they've done against lefties, because they've been totally neutralized by both of them this year. They have done so much That's what's made this rotation that much better in 24. And the offense has actually taken a step back from where they were last year.
How do the Mariners plan on finding something over this next 40 or so games? Some sort of consistency. How do you do that? Because here are some things you have already tried this season that obviously haven't worked. You fired a hitting coach, clearly did absolutely nothing. It did nothing. Brant Brown was a scapegoat, but seriously, didn't solve a single goddamn thing. You could have another team meeting. After the first team meeting, though, does it really have any effect? Does it? No. No, it doesn't. You've already acquired the best players you possibly could that was available at the deadline. What else? You've called up all your best players from the minor leagues. You've made the trades you could. What are you supposed to do? How do you do anything else the rest of the season? Scott could very well try and call another team meeting. But at that point, all the players sitting in the clubhouse know we've already done this 3 or 4 times already. What is this going to do?
Add to that list, too, that you've now activated Julio off the IL, and we can get to him in a bit. But there is nothing left to do. There are no more prospects to call up. Harry Ford and Cole Young aren't ready. Troy Taylor was the last guy. The only guy that would be left, as we've said, is Logan Evans, who we're huge fans of. He's very much a friend of this podcast. We want him to come up to the big leagues eventually and just thrive. But you know what? Logan Evans doesn't hit. What else do you do? This is the team you've got. There is nothing else. And by the way, the guys you've traded for, they've basically done what you've asked them to do. Randy's been good since he's been traded here. Randy's done what he's supposed to do. Justin Turner, for the role he's supposed to play, is about done what he's supposed to do. It's everybody else.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we're left here.
Yeah. And how many times can we keep having this conversation? It's
apparently every week.
Great. I look forward to it every week.
Every week through now through the end of September. You can schedule that. Yeah. Friday episode, we're going to sit here and start dropping F-bombs left and right. Every single time. Because that's how they're going to stay on brand. There is one thing they can do, though, to actually fix this. So the stat is thrown around today that if you throw out the White Sox series against all these other teams with a losing record, Mariners are 5-18 since they swept the Rangers and went 10 games up in the division. 5-18 against sub-500 teams. Teams you should beat as a playoff team. You have the greatest rotation in franchise history, and you are 5-18 against losing teams. Does not even compute. But you know what does compute? That's 7 series right there. 7 series in a row you lost against sub-500 teams, not named the Chicago White Sox. Do you know what you have the rest of the season? And it starts tonight again in Pittsburgh. You have 8 series against losing teams, and you better win all of them. All of them. Because how do we know they're going to beat good teams down the stretch here? They could. They've shown us they can if they lock in for a series, but we don't know that. And it could be an example like they're going to have this week after the Pirates series when they go to L.A. and play a team that is vastly more talented than they are. I mean, vastly, not even close. And then in that case, it doesn't even really matter how locked in you are if you cannot match the talent of Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, etc. So that's where we're at right now. You have 8 series. Pirates, Giants, Angels, A's, Cardinals, Rangers, A's. Win every single one of those series. Because you should. You are more talented than all of those teams. This should not be an issue.
Or you've at least got to win 6 or 7 of them. The Mariners need some 20-10 stretch now. They do. That's just reality. You want to win the division? You want to get into the playoffs? You need some stretch like that. And that includes beating teams that are worse than you. Honestly, even the Dodgers, do I expect the Mariners to win that series? Absolutely not. I will say, though, the Dodgers pitching isn't exactly as lethal as it's been in years past. They've got a lot of injuries right now. Now, do I think the Mariners are going to score against the guys they're going to throw out there? They haven't given us reason to believe that. But, again, they should not be overmatched in any series they play the rest of the way. The Yankees, when they play them in September, again, what's so special about the Yankees? They've been awful since about June. They have two amazing, basically Hall of Fame caliber bats, and what is the rest of that team? Garrett Cole's been awful this year. Their rotation hasn't been strong. Their bullpen hasn't been strong. There's no series the rest of the year the Mariners cannot win, and they really shouldn't be that overmatched in any of them, even though, yes, are the Dodgers far more talented than them? Yeah. Doesn't mean they're totally overmatched. Like, you've got to have some stretch where you go 20-10. You see what the Astros are doing right now? They've ripped off 8 in a row as we record here on Thursday. The Mariners are going to have something like that at some point because you can't keep going idle like this the rest of the way and make the playoffs. You're not making the playoffs being 4 games over 500.
Nope. And now you're equal back of the third wild card as you are in the division. So you're now not only chasing one, or trying to control one destiny of yours, which is the American League West, you're trying to now go after 2. And both are equally as far away right now. And both those teams you played, you should be able to beat. You are more talented than both the Royals and the Astros. It's inexplicable you're 3.5 games back of them.
Yeah. And I don't want to hear anybody put any blame on Andres Munoz about the home run he gave up. Was it unfortunate? Yeah. Andres Munoz also had 14 straight appearances where not only did he not give up a run, he didn't give up a hit. So, yeah, the guy made one mistake pitch. Guess what? He's still one of the best relievers in baseball. The offense got one hit on Thursday. And by the way, the one run they scored didn't even come as a result of that hit. They had to leave the bat on their shoulder all of the first inning to draw 4 walks in 1 inning and score a run. So, let Andres Munoz be. I saw some stupid discourse on Twitter about it today. Somehow people trying to, say...
It's painful, though. On brand with the Mariners franchise. Did you are aware Javi Baez is the worst hitter in baseball with at least 250 plate appearances? The worst.
Yep. I know.
The worst one. And yeah, like I said, it's been since June 26th since Andres Munoz has given up a run. June 26th.
Yeah. So again, totally unfortunate. Awful time for that to happen. For him to
you can
finally
say the same thing for Jimmy on Wednesday. He's facing a bit stiffer of competition, but Jimmy Garcia's been amazing this year. Amazing. Totally amazing. We've highlighted it on here how much of a drastic step forward he's taken. He threw one terrible pitch and it cost his team dearly.
The Mariners need Gabe back on that note, and they need Gabe Spire to get back and be the Gabe Spire that was, or some form of it that he was in April, because Jimmy Garcia's splits are not very good. Like, lefties this year have crushed him pretty hard. And the Mariners, I guess, don't really have guys they're going to that are lefties right now. Like, Sauce hasn't pitched in a few days, and Scott talked about he's been sick. Maybe that's part of the reason he had a couple bad appearances, part at least. But, you know, they haven't really used him in a few days. So they don't seem all that eager to put him in right now. Maybe they want him to work through some things a little bit. But, look, ultimately, I hate to even put the bullpen on blast here because it all comes back to the fact this offense can't hit. That's what it's about. Like, you and I talked over text. Both of us had different opinions, which is totally fine after Wednesday's game about how the 8th inning was handled. Like, I wanted Brian Wu to go out there and start the 8th inning because he was only at 87 pitches and he was absolutely cruising. You said, no, like, Jimmy is your 8th inning guy. You should trust him all the way. And that can be here or there. You can have either opinion you want. I don't think either is totally wrong, but it all comes back to the fact the offense can't hit. They just, like, they do this every time. And look, like, I can be mad about the Wu thing, or maybe mad's not even the right word. I can slightly disagree with it, like saying I wanted him to start the 8th. But obviously, I understand the Mariners have calculated decisions on how they make these calls. For example, I think Brian Wu's opposing OPS third time through the order this year, it's not that high, but it's like 580 or something, where Jimmy's OPS, like hitters OPS against Jimmy Garcia this year is like 450 or something like that. So both low, but that is the type of thing the Mariners make decisions off of. They say they see 130-point difference or whatever it is, they're probably going to Jimmy Garcia. But you can have either opinion on that however you want. It all comes back to the fact 4 runs all series, 1 hit in the finale. That's what this is about.
Yeah. And it would be helpful if the guy coming back off injury could be productive, but we're going to discern whether or not that was the right idea. We'll get to that here in a sec.
Yeah, before that, let's take a pause. We're going to talk to you guys about our friends over at Pagacci's Pub 85. That's over in Kirkland. You guys know You want to plan a good time with your friends, a night out, watch some games, eat some great food, have some awesome drink specials, head over there. Drink specials for happy hour, it's $3 and $4, 2 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Those are pretty good deals. You can also go play pool, play darts, whatever you want. It's the perfect spot for a night out with your friends, relaxed night, watch some games. Maybe unless you're watching the Mariners, because nobody's relaxed watching them these days. But to go to Pub 85 and have a fun time with your friends is always, always a blast, so we highly recommend it. That's Pagach's Pub 85 in Kirkland. Yeah, let's talk about Julio. He returned on Sunday. We mentioned it on a little bit on the live stream, tiny bit on Wednesday's podcast, but we're going to break it down more here now because unfortunately, in Wednesday's game, he re-aggravated that ankle. He did not play Thursday. They are calling him day-to-day, but the story here is he re-aggravated it.
So how do we want to go with this? There's a lot of different ways to approach this. There is the how do you handle him when he does play, or did he come back too soon? I kind of want to start on the latter of did he come back too soon? Because I think that's the major argument amongst people here. I was initially among the people who I trusted the Mariners when they said he's okay to come back. I was like, all right, well, they've kept all these pitchers healthy. The Mariners, for the most part, in these last 3 years have been pretty healthy. So I feel like they have a general idea of the health of their players, and they know what's right for them. So I said, okay, if they think Julio Rodriguez decides to come back on Sunday Night Baseball and he's good enough to come back then I will trust their decision. Even though when you see high ankle sprain and the fact he had only been out, I think it was exactly 3 weeks at that point, you kind of raise an eyebrow. Well, high ankle sprains don't just go away. These are injuries at minimum that last 6 to 8 weeks. That's in a best case scenario. But as I was trying to do my doctor research online yesterday, Lyle, and trying to see, the different stages of a high ankle sprain, they specifically note, hey, athletes, this is going to take significantly longer for you to heal from a high ankle sprain because you're constantly putting pressure on it, cutting, changing directions, etc. So he comes back, and it only takes 3 games for him to tweak it again. Like, seriously tweak it to the fact he has to come out of the game. Which led to a lot of people saying, including myself, I said this, there's tweets on my timeline, you can go look at it, where I said, well, that's done. I don't want Julio back until he can play center field. Well, that's not the case, really. Because I've come, I think, from all the information I've gathered on this subject, is that his ankle injury will not go away before the end of the season, period. It will not. Whether or not he sits out every game or if he plays every game, the ankle will continue to hurt and be unable to be 100% during this season. So that leads me to this point, Lyle, where I think this is really just going to have to be something we're going to have to get used to down the stretch with Julio. It is probably going to have to be 2 games on, 1 game off. 2 games on, 1 game off, because he's going to do something to aggravate it. And it's just not going to heal while he's sitting there in the dugout, just waiting.
So I think you're right. I think your latter opinion's right about they're just going to have to let him play through this. And you and Joe Doyle were talking about it on Twitter yesterday for a bit. And Joe's obviously a friend of ours. And TJ and Joe had different opinions, which is totally fine. And I think what we've gathered now from what Joe said and from what other people said is this. He's just going to have to play through it this year. It is not going to fully heal by the time the season ends. So, okay, we're all going to have to accept that at this point. Here's the problem. Let me preface again by saying I understand this is what they're going to have to do. But where Julio Rodriguez has essentially provided all of his value this year is in the field. The guy's barely been a league average hitter. Right now, if you look on Baseball Reference, his OPS plus is 100, exactly. His WRC plus might actually be a little bit different. It might still be under 100. He has barely been a league average bat all year. Where his values come from is playing elite defense and his speed on the base pads. Now he's not going to have that. Now he's just going to DH, and you are hoping for a guy who has been a league average hitter and a slightly above league average hitter for the last year and a half to all of a sudden explode in the final 6 weeks of the season with a high ankle sprain that is not close to 100% that he's trying to play through.
And where he has showed zero consistency all season of staying hot. The only hot stretch was before he got injured for 9 games. Yeah. Really, that's it.
That's it.
So, and and so the point Joe brought up to me on Twitter is like, would you rather have more Mitch Garver or Leo Rivas for 40 games, meaning they play more because Julio can't physically suit up and play in that roster spot? And my answer to that question is no. I would still probably rather have Julio based on the upside of what he could do, the idea of what Julio Rodriguez can do at the plate, the 2022 version of him, and I just miss so damn much that we have not seen since 2022, since before this podcast existed. Literally, that's how long it's been. I miss that so much. The idea is stuck in my brain. But it just doesn't, even if I say yes to that, that still doesn't mean, like, man, that I'm rearing and over the moon for Julio to get all these DH at-bats. He just hasn't been good enough this year. And it's frustrating for me to sit there and think of the line of thought you just brought up and when it comes to his value and be like, well, yeah, if he's going to break out, it's sure going to be when all he can do is sit there and think about hitting in the dugout, which isn't made for everybody. That's why people have said DHing's pretty hard because you have nothing to distract yourself. Oh, while my ankle is literally flaring up, and every time I push off on my swing and my back ankle, my leg is just going to jolt on fire. Like, it's going to be just a jabbing pain in my ankle every single time I do that. That's when I'm gonna jump out and I'm gonna hit. Unfortunately for the Mariners, they have no other options.
No, and you're essentially saying you need your DH spot to be a league average hitter at this point, which is what Julio's been, aside from Mitch Garver, who just hasn't been that this year. He's had a very tough year. That's what you're saying. Like, we value him enough for him to be league average at the plate on a bad ankle with the hope that maybe he can find some way to break out. Now, I'll ask this. I think we now are all in understanding that no matter what, if Julio were to come back this year, the ankle was never going to be 100%, and the Mariners accepted that. Could he still have used a little bit more time to recover? I'm talking another few days, another week, whatever. That I still wonder, because, look, in that Tigers series, when he tried to beat out that infield single, he was basically hobbling on it. He didn't look comfortable running down the first base line.
Still fast, but not prime Julio. Like he was ginger on it, and then he was gingerly walking back to first base at the end of that play. Then he re-injures it later in the game, again, 3 days after he had just come back, along with the fact that he never looked that comfortable running the bases when he was testing it out before he was activated off the IL. We were out there that week, or at least I was. Divish recorded some videos of it and said the same thing. Like, he never looked that comfortable running. Even if he was never going to be 100%, could he have used a little bit more time to the fact where even if you're not going to be at full strength, you'd at least not re-aggravate it this quickly? Like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I do wonder. I think from everything I've seen, that wouldn't have made much of a difference. It's going to get aggravated no matter what. It would have been aggravated if he sat out another month.
Maybe that's true. And maybe that's where we're at. But that kind of leads to the second point of this conversation, is understanding where Julio's at and understanding who you have in terms of a player with the injury that he's going to endure the rest of the way. But also saying, at least me personally, I don't love how this whole thing's been handled, both by him or by the Mariners. Now, maybe it's the case, right? Maybe this is what you've got. And they said he's ready to go with the conditions that he'll be under because it's not going to get much better. But, like, I don't know. So here's what's sticking out to me. And you can push back on this if you want to. But it was the fact that if that's the case, if he was ready to go on that Sunday for Sunday Night Baseball, there were reports out on Friday that Julio was saying, like, I'm good. My ankle's good. My goal is to be ready for Sunday. Well, why is it, if you're feeling good, why aren't you coming back Saturday? Like, why is it, if you're feeling good Friday, why are you waiting another day to come back? That just felt a little weird.
Mm-hmm. And what does he mean by good? Good is a very subjective term, apparently.
Yeah. But, like, that's the thing. It was either, so my thing was either give it a few more days or let it rest a little more. But if that wasn't going to do anything for him, then again, why didn't he come back on Saturday? Now, it didn't matter. The Mariners swept that series against the Mets. They won anyway. It was just, I might be reading too much into this, but like almost like he was trying to make some grand appearance, like a grand return on the national stage. I don't know. Again, like maybe I'm totally wrong about that, but that's a little bit what it felt like. If you're saying I'm good on Friday, but then you take another day.
And on top of that, so if you take Sunday Night Baseball away from the Mariners, when does he come back?
That's what I mean. I don't know. What was he
Right.
pushing himself so hard to get back so he could play on Sunday Night Baseball, which, by the way, he went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts in that game.
Mm-hmm. When is it the Tiger series? If it was just the Tiger series, then it's probably just a nothing burger. It's an extra couple days of rest. It really is. It might just be a timing thing. But what if he sat out another week or waited until the Mariners got back from this road trip to play again against the Dodgers? That's a week and a half. And even if that didn't make that much of a difference, maybe it would have gotten Julio more used to how he's feeling with his ankle. Because, as I stated, and I'll state again, no matter how much he's resting, it is going to bug him the rest of the season. He's not going to be able to cut as well as he'd like. He's not going to be pain-free. It's going to be a struggle. He's going to be in pain every single time he's in the box when he's running around the bases. So ultimately, that week and a half might not have made that much of a difference. Did it just take 3 weeks for Julio to realize this is how it's going to be, and the Mariners realize that's how it's going to be? I remember when he was injured, even he was diagnosed with a high ankle sprain, but the impression I got is that it really wasn't that serious, and that he would be healthy at some point. And maybe that's just bad messaging or bad receiving on my part. Could be, certainly. No injury expert. So I think perhaps it was just a bad impression of what the injury actually was and how serious it was and how long it's going to affect Julio Rodriguez for. Because it very well could be that just everyone is learning right now how long high ankle sprains last for. Because really, Mariners haven't had to deal with a whole lot of them, at least not to players of this importance.
They did say originally he was going to be day-to-day, and then it turned into an IL stint. Sometimes that happens. Again, Kyle Tucker, our guy on this podcast, future Mariner, of course, he was listed as day-to-day back in, mid-June with a shin contusion? That's what they said, a shin contusion, a.k.a. a bruised shin. Kyle Tucker hasn't played in 2 months. So he went from what we thought was going to be day-to-day to he's out a while. Mm-hmm. Julio went from day-to-day to, he went to the IL, felt like he was going to be out a while, and then he got back probably quicker than most people thought he would get back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
This is going to be something they just deal with. Julio's going to have to deal with it. He's going to have to find a way to be productive offensively. He just can't get in the DH spot and stink.
No.
Because then he is essentially just replicating what you get from Mitch Garver, which can't be for Julio because he's worth way too much to do that.
Yeah. And then, look, there's one more topic I want for us to bring up here. And maybe I'm just irritated by everything this week. I don't know. Maybe I'm off on this again. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. But I remember, TJ, you asked me back in April. It was that game where Julio came in to pinch run against the Cubs. He got off to a really bad stretch to start the year. And he got picked off to end the game. After the game, he declined to talk. And you said, you know what? I didn't like that. And I said, well, why? And you said, you're the face of the team. You're the star of the team. You make the big money. You're supposed to speak to the media and answer questions after a game. And I said, okay, you can feel that way, but it was one time. Maybe there wasn't that much to talk about since he only played for 60 seconds in that game, and you just move on. Now this has happened a few times this year where he's done that, as recently as now in this Tiger series. Daniel Kramer tweeted out again on Wednesday night that after Julio aggravated the ankle, he basically said in passing, meaning he didn't stop, he just kind of said, yeah, I'm good. And Kramer tweeted, but he preferred not to speak further. That's happened 5 times this year now or something like that. Maybe 5's too much. It's happened close to a handful of times this year where he just decides, no, I'm not going to talk about it. And I understand, again, we're going to keep reiterating this. Maybe this ankle is the best it's going to be all year. But if that's the case, does he refuse to talk every time he re-aggravates it the rest of the season? He just refuses to talk? He doesn't think he has to? George Kirby, the example I was going to use on this, we know, like, he does not like doing media. It's just not his thing. He doesn't prefer to be in the limelight. He got shelled on Tuesday. Not a good outing. He sat there and answered questions. You know he didn't want to be there answering them, but he sat there and answered them. Julio's done this a few times this year now, where he's like, you know what? I don't need to talk to the media today. I'm just going to say no. You don't really see anybody else on the team doing that. So maybe I'm just irritated by everything this week, but it's happened enough times now this year where I've started to take notice. In April, I said, TJ, I don't think it's that big a deal. Now I'm like, I don't know. This is getting a little old.
Well, there's a lot of ways to say peel back the onion on this. Ultimately, he is still 23 years old, so there's still plenty for Julio to learn about in Major League Baseball and handling himself and such, and that's why I'm sure he thinks at least he's surrounded himself with very good people, good advisors, friends, teammates, etc., that will give him advice on what the right decision to do is. And ultimately, this could just be a big nothing burger, but still, you are the face and franchise of the team. The contract says so. Whether you want to be or not, the contract says so. So when that happens, you're the one up there talking. You're supposed to. So,
right. So,
it stinks. You might not want to do it, but it is your job. It's like the job of an NFL quarterback. You think Aaron Rodgers likes... Actually, sorry, that's a lie. He does like it. He likes the attention a lot. Pick a quarterback who hates talking to me. What's a quarterback who hates talking to the media?
I guess the one that always jumps out to me was Cam Newton after the Super Bowl, who did not give a good interview when they lost that Super Bowl, by the way, but he was present. He was there. I'm trying to think of another. Who else?
That, really disheartened. Well, maybe all quarterbacks have ego, though, so they probably all like it. But and a star player just hates talking to the media.
Well, Marshawn?
Yeah, exactly. Boom. Like a team leader. Hates talking to me. Just despises it. He still did it when he had to.
Yeah.
He wouldn't give great answers.
Yeah, barely. But he did. I know, and maybe Marshawn's not a good example either. I'm trying to think of, an NFL quarterback who really hates it, or there's a lot of guys in the NBA who don't like it, but they just have to do it. Quarterbacks, It's their job. Okay, you know what? We don't even have to pick a specific quarterback name. When a guy gets blown out, or a team gets blown out, quarterback has a really bad game, they still have to go up there and talk. None of them want to be doing it, but they do. And here's the thing. If Julio on Wednesday had not talked to the media, and the reason was he wanted to get more clarity about where his ankle was at and was going to answer questions the next day, I'd understand that. Andres Munoz, who we've talked about, one of the just greatest human beings ever. We could not say enough good things about him. I remember when he injured his back in Oakland, he said to the media after the game, you know what, today, I'd rather just not answer questions. And he said, the reason is I don't want to give false speculation on where my back might be at until the MRI comes back tomorrow. Tomorrow, when it's all back, when I have the reports, I will definitely talk. He did that. Well, we're sitting here on Thursday. I haven't seen any quotes out from Julio today where he sat around and talked to the media and gave some update. No, it seems like he kind of just blew him off, and he's done it a few times. Again, maybe I'm just irritated by everything this week, and I'm an old man yelling at a cloud. Insert that meme. But it's happened a few times this year now. And, paired with the fact you're not exactly hitting like Aaron Judge right now or playing like Aaron Judge, but you're not talking. Doesn't seem right.
And again, maybe it's the youth of underperforming, frustrated with injury, and don't want to give yourself the risk of saying something you'll regret.
Maybe.
That's realistic.
Yeah.
That could be it, right? And as you grow into your major league career, you learn to compartmentalize and turn into Russell Wilson. Just be a robot.
Just be totally fake? I don't want Julio to be totally fake.
Doesn't need to be fake, but he can stand up there and give a cliche scrum question.
That's true.
Like that's something the great ones master.
Yeah.
So hopefully he gets to that. Hopefully this is just speculation on this case, because otherwise you do want him sitting up there and taking responsibility for things, because the franchise is his. We gave him the franchise when Russ got traded. We gave him the city, in fact. I don't know if we've taken it back yet. I don't think so. It's still his. He still has the keys to it. And when that is the case, that is your responsibility. The champion of the city. So we just want that, and people want that, and people want quotes, answers, good play, etc.
We trashed on Russell Wilson all the time, especially toward the end. And even now, we have a whole podcast segment named after him. He was corny. He was fake. But I will give him this. He always stood up there and answered questions. He might have gave some very, very media-trained robot-like answers, but he stood up there and answered questions. Anyway, that's
Threw a pick on the 1 yard line and stood at the podium right after.
Yeah, he did. So, again, maybe we're making something out of nothing here, and that's entirely possible. I've just noticed now that it has happened more than once this year. It's happened a few times, and it's gotten to the point where, yeah, I've kind of taken notice of it. So I just wanted to bring it up. You guys can let us know what you think about it in the comments. Maybe we're totally off on this. Maybe you guys agree. You can let us know. It's totally fine if you feel either way.
Before we get to a more positive segment of the podcast, let's hear a word from Game Time. Summer's still here, guys. It's winding down, but as of right now, it's still pretty warm outside. And that means you still have time to get out to T-Mobile Park and watch the M's. Want to get out to the Pen, grab a drink, and watch the game with your friends? Let Game Time help you get there. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The Giants come to town a week from today, and Game Time has you covered if you're looking for tickets. It's $43 to get in on Friday, $48 on Saturday, and $35 on Sunday. Get a panoramic view of your seat and toggle the all-in pricing feature so you know how much you're paying and what the view is before you buy. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's go down on the farm. Who you got this week, Lyle?
I am so glad we're getting to a positive segment now. We needed it. We really did. You know what? I'm actually going to do two. First one's Logan Evans, our guy, once again. Anytime we have a chance to hype him up, we're going to. And in his last start, 6 perfect innings. That was pretty sick. Obviously, he's had a kind of a whirlwind type of season. And not to say in terms of his play, he's been probably the best pitcher in the Mariners system this year. No, he has been the best pitcher in the Mariners system. I'm not saying probably. I'm stamping that. He has. But whirlwind in terms of began the year as a starter. They tried to put him in the bullpen and fast-track him to the big leagues this year. Ultimately didn't end up working out, so they move him back to a starter's role. And now he just throws 6 perfect innings. Attaboy, Logan. That's all I have to say. Keep dealing. And hopefully we're going to see him in Seattle at the end of the year for the minor league awards when he is crowned, in my opinion, minor league pitcher of the year.
Nothing puts a smile on our face quite like Logan Evans. Yeah. I'll say that.
No, he's the man.
Just for my guy, it's actually very, very similar to Logan Evans, and someone who I'm shocked we haven't highlighted him yet. He was the pick before Logan Evans in last year's draft. Brandon Garcia. I'm shocked it has taken us this long to highlight him. Take a listen to these stats, Lyle, for Brandon Garcia this season. 21 games, a 2.11 ERA in 98 innings. He struck out 119. He's walked 36. That's about an average walk rate, an above-average strikeout rate, and he's got a ground ball rate, I think, of like 56 or 57%. That's pretty damn good. And why do I say it's very close to the Logan Evans profile? Well, in case you are unfamiliar for Brandon Garcia, do you want to guess what his ERA was at Texas A&M last year before he was drafted in the 11th round?
5.8.
It's close. So it was a 5.56 last year at A&M. He had pitched the previous 3 seasons at Quinnipiac, a hockey school, not a baseball school, a hockey school, before going to A&M, putting up that season, and he comes into the Mariners system in his first full season. He has a 2.11 ERA. It's literally the same story as Logan Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Middling college pitcher, comes to the Mariners system, they tweak something, boom, he's got a 2.11 ERA. Pretty cool. That's a pretty cool story. And even better, since he's gotten promoted to Arkansas, he had one blow-up start on the 24th of July, where he gave up 6 earned in 5 innings. In the rest of his starts combined, he's given up 1 earned run.
And he's currently got, I think, 11 and 2/3 scoreless innings in a row. That's his last 3 or 4 outings.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And yeah, because they've been tampering him down a little bit now that he's gotten his inning count up. But, man, this dude has been really good. He's been flying under the radar of how good he's been. Again, we love Logan Evans, and he's gotten a ton of time here on this podcast this season for good reason, because he's awesome. He's the best. He's our guy. But Brandon Garcia, on a very similar profile, the very pick before Logan Evans, is doing pretty similar things in the Mariners system, and it's pretty cool to see.
So I hope and think Logan Evans will still win minor league pitcher of the year for the Mariners, but they give out a lot of minor league awards at the end of the year, so hopefully they give Brandon Garcia some award as well, so both of them can get up to Seattle at the end of the year, because Garcia's been awesome too. You're right. And yeah, the fact we haven't highlighted him yet, I don't know how, but I'm telling you, people, like there's obviously a lot of discourse right now about what's going to happen next year in terms of what the coaching staff may look like, what the front office may look like if they miss the playoffs, and with the contracts expiring, etc. I just really encourage people to take note of what the Mariners have done with pitchers and don't take it for granted. There's not a ton of orgs out there. They're going to draft a guy in the 11th and 12th round back-to-back years who all of a sudden become the 2 best arms in your system. It doesn't just grow on trees. It's a pretty talented group that's able to do that. So there's one last guy I want to highlight. I said I had 2. The other one, it's not a guy that's, it's not about performance. I just saw this today on social media here on Thursday, and I wanted to give a shout-out about it. So we know Johnny Farmelo is recovering from his ACL injury right now, and there was a pretty cool video that was posted today by, I think, the facility that's helping him work through his rehab. Well, the video was kind of like about him, like, obviously never giving up and keep pushing forward and all that. And there was some video of him starting to walk on crutches and kind of, recover from everything and doing a little bit of training. And at the end, there's a shot of Ronald Acuna talking to him, to Johnny Farmelo, who's also recovering from an ACL injury. And I just saw that. I was like, whoa, like that's pretty cool that Ronald Acuna is essentially in the ear of Johnny Farmelo. I'm sure Johnny's picked his brain a little bit. So I saw that today. I was like, oh, that's sick. So I just wanted to give a shout out about that.
That's a pretty cool influence to have.
Yeah, 100%. Like I saw it and I was like, well, hopefully you can pick the brain of Acuna a little bit. That's a pretty good guy to learn from. And you know what? As we know, like I'm not going to sit here and compare Farmelo to Acuna or anything like that, but Johnny Farmelo's got a very bright future. So pick the brains of all the stars you can.
Just remember what Acuna did coming back from ACL. 47 homers, 70 steals. Let's go, Johnny. No pressure.
Exactly. But yeah, anyway, I saw that today. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I just wanted to give a shout out about that. All right. Russell Wilson, umpire of the week. Who we got?
Manny Gonzalez. Have you seen this clip this week with George Springer?
Honestly, I don't think I have. So fill everybody in, including me.
All right. So George Springer earlier this week, I believe this was on Wednesday. So he was at the plate. He's facing the Angels. He got hit in the toe. Pretty standard, right? Get hit in the toe, you go to first base. Well, Manny Gonzalez, behind the plate, somehow didn't recognize that George Springer got hit by a pitch. And Springer's walking down to first base. Manny Gonzalez is like, where are you going? George's like, well, I got hit. Manny was like, no, you didn't. So, as people do in the year 2024, they look back at the dugout and they do this. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm putting my hands up to my ears and saying, let's review it. So they sent it back to New York for review. What did New York come to the conclusion of, Lyle? That somehow they still didn't see that George Springer got hit by a pitch. And let's just say George Springer did not take too kindly to Manny Gonzalez and the umpires in New York, failing to recognize he got hit in the toe and promptly got himself thrown out of the game. So this isn't only a Manny Gonzalez award this week. This is an entire Replay Center in New York award. Congratulations, guys.
How do you miss that? How? Isn't this what you have replay for? How do you miss it?
Yeah. It's like, I forget which play it was this weekend. I was listening to the game on the radio, and Gary Hill is like, I like to think that I'm right 100% of the time. He says this sarcastically, by the way, because like Gary wouldn't say that dead serious, like, oh yeah, I'm right all the time. We know Gary's funny and wouldn't say something like that seriously. But he was like, Yeah, I have a pretty good feeling about this. I feel pretty right about this. And it comes back, and the umpires and the umpires decided not to do whatever Gary thought. And he's like, oh, well, except for now. This is one of those situations right there.
Sad. As we like to say, at least they'll be held accountable.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
All of them. Yeah. It's good. It's a good thing we had the system in place to do that. So shout out to you guys. Shout out Manny Gonzalez. Shout out the wonderful umpires in New York. Let's close out the show with Speak Your Mind. All right, Lyle, what's on your mind this week?
Oh, I tweeted it out and figured if, in case anybody hasn't seen it, just share on here. But I have a new job, I guess. No, not I guess. I do. Now. Oh, TJ's clapping. And he's covering his face. Yeah, so I guess for anybody that doesn't know that I'm the newest part of Brock and Salk, which is pretty cool. TJ and I have hosted a couple times, but now every day I'm a regular part of the show. So Justin, who was one of the two producers on the show for a few years, who TJ and I have gotten to be friends with, and he does a bunch of stuff out of the ballpark. He does a lot of the Jumbotron hosting. He was the producer for a few years. He transitioned into a new role with Seattle Sports, with 710. Now he's doing a bunch of their social media stuff. It opened up a spot for a new producer / board op / I don't even know what the exact title of the role is, to be honest, on the show. And yeah, now I'm a part of it, and it's been pretty cool. I'm a week into it at the time of recording this, and it's been a bunch of fun. Gotten a lot of nice feedback about it, and I'm having a blast with it.
Well, congrats, dog.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good show to be a part of.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's good. I think I've told you everything. I don't know which thoughts I want to rehash here, but yeah, it's good. It's good.
Thanks, dog.
Getting used to waking up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. Like the constant, we've done it a couple times since we filled in, but the constant 4 a.m. wake up every day, that's an adjustment. Now, I will say, it makes it a lot easier to get up at that time when you're excited about what you're getting up for. And this is what I always strive for. I mean, this is why I probably never liked school. This is why I went to school for sports media, is I was always wired like this. I just didn't have the tolerance or brain power to sit in a job that I was going to hate. I just couldn't sit through it. I'm not one of those work to live people. It just doesn't work for me. So I'm genuinely, thoroughly enjoying being on the show a ton. So now each of the first few days this week, and I think it's just going to continue and continue, when I get up, is it hard to get out of bed at 4 a.m.? Yeah. But I know I'm getting up to go do something fun. So it's good. I still won't drink caffeine, though. I refuse to put myself on it.
Boo.
For those who don't know, when TJ doesn't drink coffee, he gets headaches, and I refuse to do that.
Well, missing out. It's a throw of a lifetime.
Missing out on headaches?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Throw of a lifetime. Mm-hmm. It's a shame they won't let you rank anything because they took ranked away. So, well, at least kind of, unless mostly. Sorry. I know Justin's supposed to come back and do some once a week, but I would have been open to some of the ideas you had ranking. I thought the 2 ranked we did were great. Yeah,
they were. We had a blast with them, and I guess if we fill in any more, we can still do ranked. It's not like if we ever fill in again, we have to stop. Yeah, so we're, if you want a little insight behind the scenes, we're working through it right now of what that last segment of the show is going to be every day. Because, with Justin gone, it's not just going to be ranked every day. They're going to change it up. Now, Salk has said, Brock and Salk both have said, we'd love to still have Justin in once a week to do rank. So that way Justin's still on the air sometimes. And I think they should. Justin's awesome. Genuinely awesome. We just don't know exactly what the last segment's going to be. We've done a few things with it in my first week. I got to be honest, Answer the Question Jerk's pretty fun, which they did for a long time when we were growing up. Will that be what the permanent thing is moving forward? Again, genuinely, I don't know because it hasn't been totally decided on yet. But yeah, with Justin gone, with me now in that seat, they're going to change it up a little bit. But I'm sure whatever they do, it's going to be fun. I got to say, go ahead.
I was going to say, last thing I have to add to this is, have you gotten any Frank drops in the system yet?
No, I've not gotten any Frank drops. The problem is, I don't know if anybody else on the show knows who he is.
Well, it could pretty quickly.
Well, that's true. Feeble! I mean, that's how we probably should have just started this show. But anyway, maybe one day I can work it in. If I can figure it out and I figure out the right time to drop it. But yeah, what was the other thing I was going to say with all this? It was about wait, I almost had it. I thought, who knows? Yeah. The point being, it's been a bunch of fun so far, and I'm looking forward to keeping it going because again, like this is the type of job I'm really excited about, and this is what I was going to say. It's a very, I like it this way, by the way. It's a very fast-paced radio show. Like a lot of sports talk shows, they're slow and like the pace is slow and it's just a lot of back and forth. Like with Brock and Salk, they do a lot of different things and there's a lot of moving pieces. And I like the way it's structured because it doesn't ever feel like it drags out. Like it's the shortest 4 hours I've ever been through. Like the show flies by. And I think part of that is because there's so many moving parts in the show with different, segments and different audio and all that stuff. So it's fun. It's fun that way. And it also keeps you on your toes and it keeps you involved. So.
And so you don't fall asleep on the board.
Well, that too. But again, that also kind of goes back to the whole, again, once I'm up, like I'm excited to get up to do what I'm doing. So it's, I get out the door and I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to this all. What are we going to talk about today? Usually I know because we talk about what the topics will be the night before for the most part. But yeah, it's like, okay, how are we going to segue all this today? How are we going to deliver all of it? Like, how are these conversations going to go? Like, what could I possibly contribute? Like, it's fun. It's really, really fun. And just to clarify, I did put it out on Twitter, but in case anybody's wondering, if you have any questions like, well, what happens with this podcast now moving forward? Like, what changes? Does this mean with the new job, it's coming to a close? My answer to all that, no, and absolutely nothing. So I'm very excited to be doing Brock and Salk. That being said, there is absolutely nothing changing with this podcast. Our statement and stance on it still absolutely stands, and it's stood since the minute we started that we want to take this thing as far as we can possibly take it. So it would take a pretty extenuating circumstance or job that one of us would get to just stop this thing. And I don't think either of us have any plans to stop it anytime soon. So yes, I have a new job. I'm very, very happily keeping myself even busier nowadays, but this podcast isn't going anywhere. So.
My Speak Your Mind this week, Lyle, I want to sing.
You want to sing?
Mm-hmm. Ready? Dun, dun, dun. Happy birthday to you. Damn. Happy birthday to Lyle.
Dude,
you didn't see that coming. I wasn't going to mention it to the whole time. I don't think I could, in good faith, sit here in this room and sing out the whole song by myself.
Okay, good.
That feels a little weird, but I think one verse and your name was good enough. So happy birthday, big dog. I know you're probably going to do a birthday celebration, like a somersault in the Lake Washington tomorrow, and then do a keg stand or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so...
And then a trip to Red Robin after. Ooh, I forgot about that.
Oh, dude, Red Robin is pretty good.
Yeah.
So Justin has the same stance on this as me. I was talking to him about it after one of the shows this week that, yeah, we're both like totally anti-birthday people. It's just like, whatever. It's like kind of another day on the calendar. Some people make such a big thing out of it. I don't know. It just doesn't really move the needle for me at all. So like, I think TJ did that for that exact reason because he knew he was going to.
Yeah, I had to bury it because you're going to be like, no, let's talk about something else.
Exactly. So yeah, I have to say, well, hey, you know what? I just realized if you're wishing a happy birthday to me, you can wish a happy birthday to Dom Canzone too, because him and I, funny enough, have the same birthday of the exact same year. So fun fact for you. Yeah, exactly. Do the Italian thing that Canzone does when he gets to second base. Yeah, actually, I think I share it with some interesting people. I think Madonna has the same birthday I do. I think Steve Carell is the same. Yeah, I think Steve Carell is the same birthday. So
do you want to get them on the show tomorrow?
No, sure, if they've got some time. Oh, you know what? Since you brought it up, here's what I'll say. Lyle, what do you want for your birthday? Some people will ask. All I want is for Paul Skeens to not throw a perfect game. That's all I want.
You know, if the Mariners lose, I would almost rather him throw a perfect game because I think that would be cool. We haven't had one in 12 years.
Well, no, there was one. We just don't like to mention it.
Oh, shit. Yeah, there was.
Because it happened last year in Oakland. It's just the person who threw it is not a good person. So
pile of shit.
Let's just pretend like that one didn't happen. Let's just say it's Felix.
Last real one.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse perfect game.
Yeah. So
But yeah, that's about all
sure.
that's about all that's on my mind. College football comes back in 2 weeks. That'll be exciting. These new conferences are going to just throw me into a whirlwind with some of these games that are on. And it's just going to be like, I forgot this was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
same.
that's about it.
I can't wait for college football to come back too. We love college football, even though it's going to look a little different now. I'm still happy to watch games again. Obviously, we love the Mariners, but we also love football. So,
also, lastly, hot seat weddings. Have you seen this thing online? October 12th, they're not allowed to get married.
Dude, what are you talking about? I've said that forever. If you're a person who plans an October wedding, you're incredibly selfish. I've said that forever. Like, you cannot.
There was more battle online about that this week than I think I've ever seen, which is funny. Some people are like, "Come on, they play 12 football games a year. You can miss one."
Yeah, I saw some people be like, "You're grown up. Be a grown up and deal with it." And then there's quote tweets with like 5 million views. It's like, no.
I have seen a good counter argument to that though, and hear me out. Some people just have to take the discount you offer for a fall wedding. You don't have to go. Yeah. I think for most people, I would say about half the people, because some people have weddings just to see everyone that shows up. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it is. But you can get a hell of a discount having a wedding in the fall. So some people might just roll with that just because.
I guess.
Just for the bargain. I think a $10,000 wedding is better than a $20,000 wedding. It is more worth it than watching Oregon, Ohio State, which I can just tape and watch after.
Okay, but like, I'm sorry, like, I just don't think you cannot plan a wedding in October, especially if you have friends who are tied into sports in any way. Because then you put them in an impossible spot where they're selfish if they don't go, but then they're like missing important things if they do. Like, here's where my mind's going with this. October's not just about football. Like, the MLB playoffs are in October too. I don't care if you have a wedding in September. I don't care if it's in November. It can be in one of those months. It could even be a holiday wedding in December. I don't care. That's fine. You can miss a couple college football games for a wedding, or watch it on your phone at the wedding, like something like that. Like, I'm thinking about, like, just to use us as an example, us doing this podcast. It's probably not going to be this year. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Mariners season's not over yet. But in a season, if the Mariners were in the playoffs in October, that would be our biggest content month ever. Or every time they'd be in the playoffs, it'd be our biggest content month of the year. We would have so much stuff to do during a Mariners playoff run because so many eyeballs would be on the Mariners and ultimately on people talking about the Mariners in general. Like, somebody plans a wedding in October, like I'm sorry, as somebody who's like married to the game, as Future would say, married to the content game, like, I can't go. Maybe you feel differently. I have stuff to do for this podcast.
No. I thought you were framing it as the entirety of the fall. You're just saying October.
Just October. Just October.
That's fine. I could take 1 month and say no. That's fine.
Yes.
November.
That's what I'm saying.
November's fine. Plan it during FCS week for the SEC. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Was it week 11, week 12 of college football? FCS week. That's perfect.
Again, summer, fine. Spring, fine. September, fine. November, December, fine. Cannot be in October. No. There's too much going on the sports calendar, and especially, like, for people in baseball. There's too much going on. Like, can't do it. Sorry.
You've heard it, guys. If you're sending this podcast a wedding invite, no October weddings. But we'll go to all the other ones that have open bars.
Correct. It's that simple.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I think that just about wraps up this edition of the Marine Layer podcast. You guys know the drill. You want to listen to the full form podcast. Make sure you download the episodes, leave us a 5-star review, leave a written review. If you're listening to the audio podcast, you can find those audio podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and then follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.